Spring again. Indiana lilacs are blooming, worms coming alive in the soil, in our bodies too.
There are endless ways to tell the same story.
A small white card with a neatly typed message. You don't know us, but we know you.
He smiles as if I was being tested, and I passed.
Here we come with a rum-pum-pum and a pick and a strum. Wanna come?
My name is Tas Ganti, and I wrote The Rabbit Hutch. This book in particular could not have been written without Indiana. It's almost like, how have you been influenced by air or water? I was pulling from the economic histories of South Bend, Indiana, so many cities across the Midwest that were sort of conjured into existence by an industry and then very swiftly abandoned by that industry. I have the great honor of having my book translated into many languages, to talk to readers who are from a completely different culture and country, who say, I know this place, this is my town. When I write, the only goal I have is to vivify people, to make them as real as I am, to feel their reality as fully as I feel my own reality.
My name is Britney Means, and I wrote How If We Don't Change Our Ways. A lot of the book is about growing up here in Indiana and living in rural Indiana and moving around, living in Indy and Bloomington and all the places around and in between. I wanted people to feel the span of what Indiana is, the lush, weird, and sometimes harsh and sometimes really beautiful experience of Indiana. My grandma would drive me into town. We would go to the library. I would wander around the books, reading, of course, but also just being the main character, trailing my fingers on them, smelling the library smell.
My name is Edward Fujawa, and I wrote Vanished Indianapolis. I've been working on history and writing about Indianapolis history for the past several years, and it's all been online. And the book idea was a way to expand the audience, and I wanted a more tangible history about the city. I hope that this serves as a guide for exploration. Some people may know, the bigger picture of Indianapolis history, but I wanted to dive into a few of the spots that are no longer here, so that people, when they move around the city, when they're, visiting, can appreciate what used to be here. The history of Indianapolis goes back 200 years, and there's a lot here. There's a lot to learn.
Raising our family here, taking daily walks, all of those experiences provide daily inspiration for me. My name is Janna Maias, and I wrote Here We Come. Well, the book just comes from the experience of my life. I work as an early ed music teacher, and I spend a lot of time singing and experimenting with music and marching around and things like that with little kids in my daily life. And one day the line, Here we come with a rum-pum-pum, popped into mind, and I just went with it, and it became the story. So that line, wanna come, in the story, that repeats throughout. And a diversity of characters come and join in this activity. Everybody is invited into music. I feel pretty connected and very thankful for the community here. At school, on the other side of my classroom wall, is another Indiana writer named Maurice Brus, who is heavily involved in all kinds of things in the community.
Most of my stories are set in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is a fascinating character to me. My name is Maurice Brus, and I wrote Unfadeable. I had a student, her name was Bella. My publisher reached out to me. And so Bella leans over and she's like, man, Mr. Broaddus, man, coming up with ideas, I bet that's hard. And I'm like, no, ideas are the easy part. So I pitched her as a book, and that's how Unfadeable started. What does it look like to operate out of your own agency? No matter how young you are, we should be mentoring the next generation, just flat out. They are creative, they have ideas, Lord knows they have opinions. What does it look like to support them, support their voice, and support their journey?
You have something to say. Hold on to that sense that you have a voice that matters. My name is Kekla Magoon, and I wrote the -1 Club. The main spark was just the title, the idea of the -1 Club. A bunch of people from different walks of life who've all lost someone come together and provide support for each other. Fundamentally, Indiana is a place I'm familiar with, and so I write about what's familiar, and I try to challenge myself to tell complex stories, to tell stories that will challenge my readers in different ways, but hopefully also bring comfort and support to people who need it.
George Kalamaras, and I wrote To Sleep in the Horse's Belly, My Greek Poets and the Aegean Inside Me. I wrote the book because I wanted to explore my kinship roots, both literary, Greek poets whom I've studied for many years, as well as my blood relatives who emigrated to the United States from Greece, how we locate ourselves and how we can often feel dislocated, and what location and dislocation might actually feel like. Writing is really not about the ego. It's not about bolstering oneself. Writing is truly about an exploration of self, but how does that self then interact with the community at large? We're really writing for and toward something larger, something greater.
Because everything worth doing is hard. And this isn't just something worth doing, Meg, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than you and me. My name is Jennifer Blackmer, and I wrote the play Predictor. I was reading this article, and the article is actually the story of Meg Crane, the woman who invented the home pregnancy test. And I was just blown away. I wrote this play because nobody knew Meg's story, that a play lives every time it's produced. The play exists so that her story can quite literally live.
My name is Rebecca McKanna, and I wrote Don't Forget the Girl. I wrote this book because I wanted to read a thriller that didn't glamorize the killer and was focused just as much on the victims. We're being entertained by someone's actual suffering. How would you want loved ones to feel in this case? The process of writing the book, I think, was really influenced by Indiana writers, the community of writers. It can be so solitary, and having that support and people who understand why you're spending hours alone in a room, like making up people in your head.
Just imagining fake people and following them around. Bond over this incredibly strange thing to do with your time.
It's also super important to find the people who see what you're going for and are good at helping you get there.
A vibrant community of writers and readers really elevates the conversation. Both of my parents were avid readers. Actually, both of my parents wrote books because of the joy that they got from reading. They wanted a way to elevate Indiana authors and also to inspire more children to develop that love of reading.
Indiana writers are so authentic. They're great.
There's a certain kind of wild-mindedness that I find sometimes across Midwestern writers that is surprising maybe to others, but it makes perfect sense to me.
This is where I started thinking of myself as a writer, building that community.
I get so many looks from people when I travel. They're like, well, where do you live? And they expect me to say New York, LA, or Chicago. And when I say I live in Muncie, Indiana, the look is always one of either confusion or amazement.
These are writers who, they all have this gift with words. I'm in the same sentence with them. They are my heroes. They are my role models. They are the people who I'm like, oh, I can't slack off on the page because they might be reading it. So I got to always keep my game sharp.
There's a great wellspring of creativity here in Indiana, and so it's really amazing to be connected to that and to be part of that and to be flowing alongside them. Can't be stopped, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Just having this kind of infrastructure is amazing. Not every state has that, this kind of recognition. That's so cool. Limestone?
Yes, and steel.
Oh.
I know it would make my parents happy, that the vision that they had for this award is really now being executed. Because you're getting so many of these authors out around the state, those ideas are spreading. It is creating a more vibrant community. It is inspiring more people.